Hello, and welcome to It Starts With a Question. I'm your host, Crystal Williams, president of Rhode Island School of Design. I'm a poet, essayist, and daughter of Detroit who is curious about how others experience the world and how their unique experiences shape how they move through it. Throughout my life, people have often told me that they feel like they can tell me anything. I think that's because, at root, I seek connection and deep understanding. Maybe it's the poet in me, but I've always been most interested in learning about the why over the what or how, so we can crack open the core of the matter and get to the heart of what makes us who we are. For me, it starts with a question, so we might learn what else do we dream for this human project. The art of María Magdalena Campos-Pons is rich and layered. Her practice mixes photography, painting, sculpture, film, video, and performance to explore notions of history, memory, and identity. As the descendant of Hispanic and Chinese immigrants to Cuba, as well as Nigerians who were brought to Cuba and enslaved, Magda is deeply informed by the traditions, rituals, and practices of her ancestors, making her work deeply autobiographical. Her work has been acquired by numerous collections, including recent acquisitions at the Museum of Modern Art in New York and the Tate Modern, among others. In 2023, Magda was awarded a MacArthur Fellowship, also known as the Genius Grant. It was 2 years ago.
In Art Basel.
At Art Basel, Miami.
Yes.
And we were in conversation.
Yes.
And I asked you a first question.
Yes.
And you launched into one of the most gorgeous introductions that I have ever heard.
Thank you.
And the people thought that we had rehearsed it.
Correct.
And we did not.
Correct. I remember that.
People are still talking to me when I see certain people. They'll say, "Oh, do you know why I think people thought that was a good conversation?" I think it was because we were talking about the heart.
Yeah.
And the purpose of art.
Yeah.
And the other night, you did the same thing. You were talking about this moment in history. So I want to, can we start there?
Sure, please.
Well, I want to, because I know you think deeply about justice, and I know you're thinking about the world right now.
Yes.
And I know that you have been traveling around recently. So just on a basic level, how are you experiencing this moment in history as the maker that you are with all of the disciplines and having been in all of the places that you've been?
One of the things that I have been ruminating about is this a moment in which silence has a meaning?
Interesting.
And if it has a meaning, what is the meaning of it? Because the kind of a force in which so many values, so many ideas that many of us hold dearly has been assaulted with such a speed.
And ferocity.
And ferocity, as you say, that give us really little space to coalesce and to construct individually or collectively the response that maybe the moment needs. So for me, in the moment that this was happening, everything of this is happening, we have been most of the time in other part of the world. We have been in the Middle East, we have been in Europe, we have been in different part of Europe, in different parts, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Italy, London, all in the time in all different latitude, longitude, and thinking from afar and seeing from afar what is happening. In those moments, from my own experience and the kind of upbringing that I have coming from Cuba, and always living in a situation of age, since I grew up and since I was born, I grew up say in the reverse, with this tension between United States and America all the time. Yeah. So it's not for me foreign moment of uncertainty, moment of tribulations, and what is next, how we respond. But there is a shocking surprise to find oneself, and in my case, myself, with the history that I have, in a situation of so much uncertainty and, let's say, rhetoric that is going against everything that as a mature woman I have found myself holding tight. No, we are to see an assault to ideas of freedom of speech, freedom of thinking, education, the arts, science, research is everything that anyone that ever put foot in the soil of the United States of America came here for.
Interesting.
No, so if you come here, and we are in a territory of immigrant, in a culture that has been built by the collective effort of many people from many regions. No, it's very disorienting. It's very, it's paralyzing, and I am talking in a personal position when I have feel myself close to despair, and having the opportunity to travel all the time with my husband, and he telling me, calm down, over and over and over.
Like
this is
center.
Those exact words.
Interesting.
Center.
Yeah.
You need to keep yourself in the center. You need to keep your ideas, who you are, centered. So the disturbance, the intentional materiality put out there to dislocate and to disrupt centering.
So what's interesting to me about that, Magda, is you're saying that challenge of feeling or finding a way to center oneself. I mean, you and I have been in the world for a while.
Yep.
And I am surrounded by young people.
Yeah,
These
a privilege.
Brilliant. It is a great privilege. There's no doubt about it. And for you and I feel much the same way. Like, you know, as a poet, how do I, in this moment, when there's so much coming at me, how do I respond to it? Can I even, should I, can I, et cetera? And I'm 54. So I was talking to a young man who is a painter. He's brilliant. He's so brilliant.
I would like to know him.
Oh my God, he's so brilliant. He's in the world of things 2 years old.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And he's working on questions to do with race and assimilation. He's a thinking painter. And
Beautiful.
his work causes you it provokes and it causes you as a viewer to really consider and to think about history. So he's one of those kinds of artists. And he was saying to me the other day that I think artists are sort of sponges for the emotions of the world, for the truths of the world, right? And he was saying that he was sort of leaning into depression because the questions that he historically or normally asks in his work are already deep and hard and emotional, right? And to then map on top of it all that's going on, he was finding it too much to harbor in his 19-year-old self.
Oh my God, it's a baby.
He's a baby.
Yeah, that's a baby.
He's very, very young. And so I was just thinking about if it's difficult for you and me to figure out how to, right, these young people,
I mean, there are similarities there, in the position. There are similarity in the perception. The different is experience. The different is sustained gesture and sustained trying and continuity that you and myself have accumulated.
Yes.
Because the other fact that what we are observing, what we are witnessing right now is not new.
Yes.
We have seen before.
Yes.
And for those of us who have been curious, who have been inquisitive, us artists, who most of the time we are alert, we knew about it. We knew that these possibilities always are around. And the question for us all is, how do you prevent, how do you participate in a society and in a war in which what is happening right now doesn't repeat? Because we have seen assault in liberties, assault in freedom, assault in equality, assault on justice over and over and over of a historical scene. And the beauty that they have been in this country is this country has been a beacon, a place that people aspire to come, because here was a different story. So how do we come here? Most of the time, we artists cannot respond that. I feel I cannot respond in the moment, but we are sponges. We are reservoir, not only, and we take what it is, but we take what we know. And this combination of scenes eventually bring responses that are important. I am always say, and I believe in the fact that art find responses that are maybe very subtle, but they construct and they contain some of the most important options for survival and for betterment. No? So how do one don't get, how do I, and I want to talk personally, how do I don't get trapped that all my energies, that all my capacity getting disrupted and diluted in the chaotic situation that is presented to us? There was a moment about this particular time, and this is what we focus. I didn't want to read the news. But what happened with people that are curious and attentive by choice, don't read in the news? Are you getting everything that happened there? There are important things that happened that you don't get information. But all this is part of the little hurricane, the little storm of this moment. And I truly believe that this is a moment of coalescing energies. And coalescing not only energy of conversation, spiritual, historical, and ancestral. Because what I know and what I feel pretty certain that this time is going to pass, and that this time when I say this time, that what we're going through, this era, this is history, this is dialectics, this is motion, this is a progress that is inevitable. But I have certain very fundamental points about how to deal and how to balance the moment of uncertainty and the painful moments that is having conversation with friends, losing extraordinary people, in which you have conversations that are important for how you deal with the time. We cannot imitate, and we could never allow the conversation and the rhetoric that is in the side confronting us to mine and to diminish our position in the side of goodness and the side of integrity and in the side of ethics that made us the individuals that we are. I hear people, I hear scenes, I see in scenes that I would say, what should be the response to that? And the first thing that comes to mind is festival. Myself, I pray. Not because prayer have all the answers, but they have answers because they have energy that you disperse. Second, I forgive my enemy from the point that I am, because I am in the right side of history. I know that. I am in the right side of truth. I know that. I am in the right side of humanity. I know that. And is anything that I could do in a short term to compromise those values?
So, but how do you get to forgiveness of your enemies? I mean, those two things aren't necessarily tied, no?
I continue fighting.
Yes.
But I think that we all And again, I mean, we exist, you and me, in the realm of poesies. No, we are people that live and construct metaphors all the time to deal with reality, to deal with life. And in the metaphor that we construct, we give hope, we give aspiration, we open opportunities of seeing and discovering to so many. So in some way, I am trying to locate in myself in what I am and what I know. Because if I let the other forces to make me something else, I am losing ground. So I am a warrior.
Yes.
But I will not fight with arms.
Yes.
I refuse to anybody to force me to have something in my hand other than a tool to make art and to learn and to disperse that.
So you bring in more into the world, name more of the ideas and the people who are aligned with one's values.
We need to do that.
We honor this more and more.
We need to do that, but also to not be sectarian in a way. The values, my values, the other value, the difference. I respect difference and I embrace difference. But I am very aligned with the idea, a few things that I have been repeating in some of my conversations. We need to change the language of our narration of what we are in this planet, in this world.
Change it from what to what?
I'm going to go there. We are in an extraordinary universe.
Yes.
With many things that we don't know.
Yes.
But we are in this small home called Earth. So I give a conversation to middle school students in what I say, I don't accept that anybody call me anymore an immigrant or a foreigner. I am an airlink. Airlink. I am part of this planet.
Earthly.
Yeah, and the only thing that we are, all of us in this planet, is sons, daughters, children of the earth. And I asked in a way that was for the kids, kind of, funny and engaging them. Does anybody know anybody that have come here from another place? Let me know.
Yeah.
No? So this is important. That yes, our geography, our idiosyncratic things connected with soil, connected with nature, connected, like we are as diverse as nature. How many fishes, how many birds, how many insects, how many plants, how many flowers. That is beautiful. How many people. But all of them have a common home with a centered core, earth, humanity. So for me, the question is, how do we rewrite the conversation of what it be to be human in this particular time? Because we are repeating same histories.
True.
We are repeating assault in well-being. We are repeating assault. We are using the excuse of land ending and starting with people that define it in every part of the earth. Because, and I think that we need to change that. I don't care. See, it's in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, of the Americas. The time ahead required new modality, new nomenclature, new understanding of the peril of geography, of the peril of borderline. The question that we all, every one of us, morning sunrise, you breathe.
This is exactly right.
You breathe.
Yep.
End of the night, just breathe slowly and you sleep. And you start again, that's in any color, race, class, beginning, ending. So, and this is sound like a very fundamental thing, but we have not found yet. And I get frustrated about that because in my small territory, I feel I have tool for this. I am a coalescer. I am a gatherer of people. I bring together people that don't will be in the same space, so I am not in the middle. If I could do that, how could we not do that communally? And then come back to religion, come back to origins, come back to description of who we are. we must rethink as we move forward what we are and how do we coexist together in this planet. Art, all the time, work as a metaphor in that. When politicians fight, artists could talk to each other. When religious figures have discrepancy about the theology of the different faith, we artists could talk together because we work with the essential and most equality and no equality lines that equalize for all of us who we are. But you say about forgiveness. I want to come back there.
Okay, well, let's bookmark it. There is a grove of trees called Pando.
Pando.
I think it's called Pando.
Okay.
In Utah.
All right.
And it is the largest known living organism on the planet.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And the trees themselves, the trunks, and they're just tubers. They are not actually the organism. The organism is beneath the ground. And it is a single thing. And what I love about that is that it's a metaphor for our species, I think, right? Which is that the trees root up, and each one seems to be an individual thing.
Yep.
You know, there are hundreds of them, and like hundreds of people, thousands, millions of people. But at the core, the trees are just, they're tubers. Of the core. So in this way, I think about our species in this way, that there is a core that we don't see, but that if you're tuned in, you feel. And that you look a certain way and I look a certain way and this one looks a certain way, this one has a certain religion, but at the core, we are all the same thing. That's my sense. That's been at the core of my work.
There is a piece that I did in 1991 in which I believe that I say the phrase, Somos la mesma cosa.
Sí,
we are the same thing.
Yes.
And it was about nature, humans, all of that. Art, I believe that all art that is fundamentally transcendent and embrace and could reach many, start from there and nurture from there. And when I spend many hours, a lot of time thinking in the beauty, the complexity of what we are. Mm-hmm. To be human is an extraordinary thing.
Yes.
To be able to love, to be happy, to have anger and control it, to desire, to repel, to have compassion. This is an extraordinary thing. That is a miracle. I always think that the privilege to come as human in the universe is something extraordinary. Because I am thinking that we could come back in the universe in many forms.
Yes,
and so many forms. And that is my fascination too with nature. Rocks, plants, animals, flowers. I mean, because and in the Yoruba tradition, we are very careful in that because a rock in the road could be your ancestors. No, so you don't kick it in the side. Mm-hmm. You may take it, maybe, and place it. And there is something wonderful about that. There is a level of compassion and empathy in the best form of it that awaken yourself to the need of others. Such a plant. No, just not to cut a rose and just because the smell is delightful. Don't ask the plant that you leave behind with permission.
Yes.
And put a drop of water or something to say thank you for this privilege. So in my romanticism, which I insisted many times, I say I am a romantic, and in a way Maybe bad, maybe good, but I am a romantic. I am still waiting and praying every day for a moment in us human. I don't think that is going to happen in my lifetime. Maybe not in our lifetime, but in which we could really understand the gravity and the magnitude, what is to be human. And then when we understand that, maybe we came to the moment in which we really have the sociability that we aim for as an artist. Artists dream, and artists have the incredible audacity, than believe that they could do something that touch others.
Yeah.
It's a vanity point in a way. It's like Thomas McEvely say, I am is a vain thought, but it's almost like if I could paint something that other people are going to relate. What a crazy thing, but what an amazing thing. That is literally what the pando tree that you mentioned in Utah does, which is underneath, but you believe there is an energy, a capacity that you could put in the word, a line that other people are going to understand, that other people are going to touch, and that talk about that energy, invisible, but that connect all of us in ways that we cannot perceive. And that is spirituality.
Yes.
And that is the thing that made us human, something else.
Is this how you get to forgiveness?
I am in forgiveness. One of the things that I have been working much internally and in silent and in private is how do I forgive myself from my shortcomings? How do I pardon myself from my errors? How do I live with myself with the thing that in certain moments I think that I could have done better, or I didn't have the temerity or the courage of the capacity to. But when in the distance I see, I say this and this and this and that. So I start from that demand to myself to do that. And then I open myself to say, okay, now Jude's story and his story and the other story, how collectively we could do that. Because I believe that when we do that, we become better humans. Because understanding ourselves, understanding of our vulnerabilities, our fragility, our imperfections. And when we understand how imperfect we are,
yes,
how incomplete we are, how many shortcomings we had, and then we are able to maybe measure in different ways the shortcomings of the imperfections, the limitation of what is outside us. And it is in that space of understanding and negotiating the difference and the similarities that maybe we could find a territory that allowed us all together to be better. I want to tell you, and I may start crying at any minute in this conversation, but I will try not. When I was seeing the image of what happened right now in the prisons, in this important in this prison that is held in Salvador,
yes,
I don't have any capacity to judge if the people there have done seen that should be in prison or not. But the only thing that came to my mind, again, was the transatlantic journey. Yeah. And I know, and you know, and everybody know, as a matter of fact, that many people every one of the people in that transatlantic journey should not have been in that boat. The first time that I saw the image, long ago, it was an article in the New York Times or something, and I see all these brown bodies all turn around like that. And I say, what is that? That looked like the map of, the abolitionists, Britain abolitionists. What is that? I didn't, and then back to, and I could not judge here. I don't have any ground to make judgment here, but I have a ground of, this is a vision of humanity that diminishes all of us.
Yes.
All of us, with no exclusion, all of us, because it still tells the history of how short we are to exercise our better self as human. And when you see bombardment here, at any place in the planet, it's still speak of our not resolving and not being able to practice. And when I'm going to tell you from my heart, we have weapons that could destroy, obliterate every one of us in a second, but we don't have a medicine to cure cancer.
Yeah. How about that?
We don't have a medicine to cure cancer. How is that possible in the 21st century? How is that we're going to create a colony for us in Mars when we have colonies of us living in the streets?
Yes.
There are people that don't have the capacity of you and me to be in this conversation. So when I come back to my very beginning and say, moments such as this maybe require a moment of introspection and silence to dig in every one of us in our deepest, obscure, and more mysterious corners of our hearts and our brains.
Magda, I want what you're talking about in relation to self-forgiveness, to introspection, and thinking about one's own privileges and fallibility.
Yes.
Do you think that this is a necessary trait to make good art? Or maybe another way of asking this
necessary trait. Well,
maybe there's another way of asking the question, which is, in what way does this trait in you and in artists that you admire inform their practice, their work?
I grew up in a very intense, rigorous relation with artists. The art school that I attended in Cuba, from the Escuela Provincial de Arte IPA in Matanzas to the National School of Art in Cubanacan, and to the Hagen Institute of Art in ISA. This is like 15 years, something of education, to Mass College of Art, then Harvard, all of that. I always saw there was also very competitive.
Yes.
You know, you're always competing, which is okay, is that we found progress too. But I grew up in a way to weary and tired of the idea of the artist, this idea of in a place of 100 people, 3 artists,
yes,
and then the 97 art.
Yeah.
So I started to do things. I wrote for the catalog of my colleagues when I was very young and in Cuba, later as well. And when I have the opportunity to start doing scenes, I immediately saw about institutional changes of how the art function. So when I funded Gallery Artist Studio projects in a corner in Brookline, Massachusetts, in Boston, it was about, I want to do curatorial exercise different than curatorial that I know. I want to have an institution in which artists relate to each other in a different way. So it was a community. It was a place in artists have a studio, we have a gallery, we have a store.
I'm so sad that when I was in Brooklyn, you were gone.
That's okay. We are here. We are here now.
Okay.
But the idea was what we did. We invite artists to curate.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't respect and adore and have all kind of veneration for what the curators that I care were doing, but I was thinking there isn't another way here. Whilst I am an artist, a practitioner, but I have a good idea about what I could do with 5 other people around me.
All the work.
Those people are all around the world here doing incredible, transformational scenes in levels that I don't want to tell myself because I don't want to be. But then I went to Nashville, and it was like, well, Nashville have a great history of cultural elements here, but anybody that I talk and I ask if you have seen around Douglas, at Fisk University, they said no. So I needed to bring Nashvillian to see what they have there that they don't know.
Right.
No?
Wow.
And I was thinking the history of what this institution is and what Vanderbilt is incredible, but it could be more collaboration here.
Yes.
So I create Engine for Art, Democracy, and Justice. Yeah. And it was to put a leading museum, a Black historical college, a leading university in the United States and a social group, million of conversation, led by a lawyer, together.
To bring it all together.
To bring it all together. So this is a very simple, minuscule idea about how one artist at a time, and as what I say, one art gesture at a time, one heart at a time, you could try to get closer and start making ripple effects.
Yes. Yeah.
In Cuba, I was invited to this Havana Biennale many times. And I noticed that while I can be invited 1, 2, 3 times, but many other people, Black people, from the city of Matanzas where I live. So I create an event. I say to when they invite me, all right, I accept the invitation, but I am doing something in Matanzas. We ended doing Rios Intermitentes. We have brought incredible amount of visibility, access, exchanges, expansion to that. Now, do that solve many problems in the world? No, yes.
No and yes.
It opened opportunities and possibilities
Making
to
space.
dream a space. There are people in that little city of Matanzas who never saw themselves in where they are now because they are in dialogue with extraordinary artists from different corners of the world. So one step at a time.
Yes.
One heart at a time.
There's a poem by Mary Oliver, which I love, Wild Geese, which many people sort of quote of hers. And there are lines in the poem, lines like, you don't have to be good.
Yeah.
You don't have to, you just have to let the meat of your heart love.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to solve the world's problems.
Yeah.
It just has to be an attempt to be doing something.
Imagine that every one of those do that.
This is it.
And every one of us do with the best of our capacity.
That's exactly right.
I mean, I am interested in your kind of inquiry in what forgiveness is, because I believe that it's important too. I want to recognize and I want to think that it's a flexibility in people, and it's flexibility in the heart, and it's a flexibility in the soul, and that people could change by circumstances, by experiences, by opportunities. So I want to be open. I want to be open to the second chances. For instance, me personally, and I say maybe because maybe I am I used to say before I am a chicken, but I know that I am not a chicken. Against, and then that is a ideological, political, human, theological, position, because I feel that there is something extraordinary in the complexity of humanity, being human. Think about the feelings, the emotion, think in the materiality of joy, think in the materiality of pain, think in the materiality of despair, abandonment, re-encountering joy, and what we go through that, and I think about this other body, this body in front of me, going through that.
But what you're saying is so beautiful, and we'll have to continue this because we're coming to the end of our conversation. But I want to continue thinking with you about this question about forgiveness, Magda, because one of the things that I see frequently, actually, among young people, many young people, and people who are sort of in millennials, et cetera, is an absolute inability and disinterest in considering the other as a human full of fallibilities and ideas and so forth. If
I disagree with you, then you are absolutely offensive and not worth my forgiveness. I absolutely will not forgive you. There is a kind of resoluteness, of a hardness that I both understand, I totally understand, and I worry about. Because it hardens us, one, it hardens us against others, but it also hardens us against our own ability to self-reflect. And I'll give you an example. Last year sometime, I have a friend who's a daughter, and they were visiting me. And they were listening to music all day in which women were described in ways that I find incredibly offensive.
I see we are together in that.
And that Black people were described in ways that I find incredibly offensive. And in the day, I sort of was talking about, I used a term that they didn't like around those T-shirts, those wife beater T-shirts, which, they were, how can you say that? That's offensive. And it was just this moment. But I thought, all day, so I apologize. I did not mean to be offensive, and I've been ruminating on that word, the language that I use, for a year. But all day, they've been listening to people who look like me, both gender and race, in these terms, without any self-reflection on that. And I think about that in relation to art making,
Yeah.
My dear. Do you want to add any last thoughts?
No, I think that it's beautiful to have the opportunity to ruminate in these ideas with you. I am very intrigued always with the youngest people.
Yes.
I am, but that I have taught all through my career without a stop. I have been not teaching now, but I have taught for 40 years practically, and I seen that the rebelliousness and the antithetic, positions that we sometimes see in the youngest people are just cocoon of fantastic scenes from where amazing new tuberculars will come. I am optimistic. I
am too.
A better future.
Yeah,
I see a much
I am too.
clear and curious.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. I love talking to you. That was so fun.
And I love talking to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you again, Magda, for joining me for this conversation. Every time you and I speak, we end up in the clouds, and the view from there is breathtaking and inspiring. Join me next time for more inspiration and insight on It Starts With a Question. In the meantime, keep up with Magda at Maria_Magdalena_Campos_Pons on Instagram, and follow me on Instagram at Crystal Ann Williams. Learn more about RISD at risd.edu.